For thousands of years, humans built things that lasted centuries. Pyramids, cathedrals, aqueducts. And then we stopped thinking small. Right now, scattered across 6 countries and 3 continents, 13 construction projects are underway that make everything built before them look like a warm-up act. One of them was declared dead for 7 years and just came back faster than anyone thought possible. Another is a city being carved into a desert that doesn't want to be carved. And one, the most secretive of all, is being built on water, in a location so remote that most governments don't even acknowledge it exists. These are not future concepts. These are active construction sites running right now in 2026. And what is happening on each one of them will permanently change what the word construction means. Join us and let's discover the 13 megaprojects that are rewriting the limits of what humans can build. Let's go.
Number 13. Burj Benghazi. Dubai has a well-documented addiction to building the tallest thing on Earth. But the Burj Benghazi, a collaboration between Benghazi developers and the luxury watchmaker Jacob & Co., is doing something that even Dubai's most ambitious projects haven't attempted before. This tower is targeting a height of over 450 meters across approximately 200 floors, which would make it the tallest residential skyscraper on the planet by a margin significant enough to be embarrassing for every other city that thought it was competing. But the height is almost the least interesting part. The design of the Burj Benghazi is built around an explicit philosophy of excess. Every element of the building, from the facade geometry to the interior finishes, is designed to signal wealth at a scale that goes beyond luxury and enters something closer to architectural provocation. The tower's exterior references the aesthetic language of Jacob & Co.'s most extreme timepiece designs, creating a building that functions simultaneously as a residence and as a three-dimensional brand statement visible from 30 kilometers away. The project is being developed in the heart of Business Bay, one of Dubai's most densely developed districts. Construction is active and moving fast. The structural core is rising, and the project team is operating under a timeline that, if maintained, would deliver completion within the next 2 to 3 years. What makes the Burj Benghazi the opening entry on this list is simple. It represents the baseline of ambition in 2026. It is the least extreme project here, and it is already more audacious than almost anything built in the previous decade.
Number 12. Merdeka 118. Almost nobody outside of Southeast Asia is talking about the Merdeka 118. That is a mistake, because this building, completed in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, is currently the second tallest structure on Earth, standing at 678.9 meters across 118 floors. It overtook the Shanghai Tower. It dwarfs the Empire State Building by more than 400 meters, and it did it quietly, without the global media fanfare that surrounded every centimeter of the Burj Khalifa's construction. The name itself carries enormous political weight. Merdeka is the Malay word for independence. The tower was deliberately positioned as a national symbol, Malaysia's declaration that it is no longer a developing economy watching richer countries build record breakers. It is now one of the countries building them. The spire at the top of the Merdeka 118 is directly inspired by the form of a traditional Malaysian kris, a ceremonial dagger. At nearly 679 meters in the air, that cultural reference becomes a statement of identity projected into the sky, at a scale visible from the surrounding mountain ranges. Structurally, the building is a masterpiece of concrete and steel engineering adapted for a geologically challenging site in a high-seismic, high-humidity tropical environment. The foundation system had to account for the specific soil conditions beneath Kuala Lumpur, while supporting a structure that, at full load, imposes forces on its base that few other buildings on Earth come close to matching. It is open, occupied, and fully operational, a completed giant that most of the world hasn't looked at yet. That oversight won't last much longer.
Only 1% of people know the dark truth behind what we are about to show you next. If you want to be part of the few who actually know what's happening in the world, subscribe and leave a like right now. Done? Look at this.
Number 11. Guangzhou CTF Finance Center. China builds fast. That is not an opinion.
It is a documented, measurable, repeatedly verified fact that the global construction industry treats as a baseline assumption. But the Guangzhou CTF Finance Center, a 530-meter, 111-floor tower completed in Guangzhou, pushed even China's construction speed into territory that structural engineers in other countries openly questioned while it was happening. The tower contains one of the fastest elevator systems ever installed in a permanent building. The high-speed lifts inside the CTF Finance Center travel at 20 meters per second, fast enough to cover the building's full height in under 45 seconds. To put that in terms that register physically, you would be traveling upward at 72 kilometers per hour inside an enclosed cabin. The pressure equalization systems required to make that ride survivable for human passengers without causing ear pain or disorientation represent some of the most sophisticated elevator engineering ever deployed at scale. The building serves as a mixed-use vertical city in its own right, containing a hotel operated by a major international brand, premium office floors, service departments, and a high-altitude observation zone. The structural system uses a megaframe design that transfers loads through a series of massive diagonal outrigger trusses connecting the central concrete core to the perimeter steel columns. This system is what allowed the building to be completed at a pace that alarmed competitors. China looked at the conventional timeline for a 530-meter tower and decided it was too slow. Then it built one faster. The CTF Finance Center is what that decision looks like when it's finished.
Number 10. Cairo Capital Tower. Egypt is building a new capital city from scratch in the desert east of Cairo. The project, called the New Administrative Capital, is one of the most ambitious urban development programs happening anywhere on Earth right now. And at its center stands the Cairo Capital Tower, also known as the Iconic Tower, which at 385 meters is the tallest building on the entire African continent. The scale of what Egypt is attempting around this tower is almost incomprehensible. The new administrative capital is designed to eventually house 6.5 million people, an entirely new metropolitan area with government ministries, a presidential palace, an international airport, a theme park, and dozens of residential and commercial districts, all being constructed simultaneously in a desert that contained essentially nothing a decade ago. The Iconic Tower is the visual anchor of this development, the structure that, when photographed from the air, communicates the ambition of the entire project in a single frame. Construction on the tower itself has faced significant financing challenges and schedule adjustments since it began. Egypt's economic pressures have repeatedly complicated the funding flows needed to maintain full construction momentum. But the tower has reached its full height, and interior fit-out is progressing. When fully operational, it will contain office space, a luxury hotel, residential units, and a public observation deck overlooking a skyline that just 15 years ago was empty desert. Africa's tallest building rises from sand. That sentence alone tells you everything about the speed of change happening on this continent right now.
Number 9. Jeddah Tower. In December 2025, a construction project that the entire industry had written off as a permanent failure quietly crossed a threshold that nobody expected to see. The Jeddah Tower, a 1,000-meter skyscraper on the Red Sea coast of Saudi Arabia, completed its 80th floor. Not remarkable by itself, what stopped the engineering world cold was the pace. One new floor every 3 days, on a building that had been completely abandoned for 7 years. The tower had halted in 2018. The Saudi bin Laden Group, its primary contractor, collapsed into financial crisis. Political turbulence in Saudi Arabia froze the project entirely. For 7 years, hundreds of meters of partially built skyscrapers sat exposed to Red Sea heat, saltwater humidity, and coastal winds, while the world assumed it would never be finished. Then, in January 2025, everything changed. A new $2 billion contract, a restructured financial framework, and a construction pace that, if maintained, will push the tower past 100 floors by early 2026 and toward its 1,000-meter target by August 2028. At that height, the Jeddah Tower will stand 173 meters taller than the Burj Khalifa, the current record holder. The engineering challenges between here and that summit are staggering. Concrete cannot be pumped above roughly 620 meters, forcing a full construction methodology switch to crane-lifted steel for the upper spire.
Wind forces at 1,000 meters above the ground operate in ranges no permanently occupied structure has ever been tested against. And the foundation, 270 concrete piles driven up to 110 meters into soft coastal soil, is holding 900,000 metric tons of structure above it. Every floor added from this point forward is a floor built where no floor has ever been built before.
Number 8. Singapore Tuas Megaport. Singapore is a city-state the size of a small county. It has no natural resources, no agricultural land, and no strategic depth. What it has is the most efficiently operated port on Earth, and it is currently building a replacement that will make everything that came before it look like a loading dock. The Tuas Megaport, when fully completed, will be the single largest port facility on the planet. It is designed to handle 65 million 20-foot equivalent container units per year, a number so large that contextualizing it requires a different scale entirely. The entire United States currently moves approximately 50 million container units through all of its ports combined annually. Tuas as a single facility will exceed that capacity alone. The construction of Tuas involves land reclamation on a massive scale, creating entirely new ground from the Strait of Malacca and building port infrastructure on top of it. The operational model being designed into the facility is almost entirely automated. Cranes will be operated remotely. Container movements within the terminal will be handled by autonomous electric vehicles guided by a central AI logistics system. Human workers will primarily serve in supervisory and maintenance roles rather than in direct cargo handling. This is not a modernized port. It is a completely new model of what a port can be. A fully automated logistics machine that processes cargo volumes no previous human-operated facility could approach. Phase 1 is already operational. The full facility is decades in the making, and it is rewriting global trade infrastructure one reclaimed acre at a time.
Number 7. Fehmarnbelt Fixed Link. Between Denmark and Germany, beneath 18 meters of cold North Sea water, workers are excavating one of the most technically complex tunnels ever attempted. The Fehmarnbelt Fixed Link will be the longest immersed road and rail tunnel on Earth when completed, stretching 18 kilometers across the strait between the Danish island of Lolland and the German island of Fehmarn. The construction method being used is not conventional tunneling. Engineers are not boring through the seabed with a tunnel boring machine. Instead, they are fabricating enormous precast concrete tunnel elements, each one the length of a city block, in a purpose-built factory on shore. These elements are then floated out to sea on a precise GPS-guided trajectory, carefully sunk to the seabed, and connected end-to-end in a continuous underwater chain. The seabed was dredged to create the trench that receives each element. Once all elements are connected and the trench is backfilled above them, the tunnel disappears beneath the seafloor permanently. The scale of the fabrication operation required to build this tunnel is itself a mega project. The onshore factory producing the tunnel elements is one of the largest concrete manufacturing facilities in Europe. It runs continuously, producing elements at a rate calibrated to the installation schedule offshore. When complete, the Fehmarnbelt tunnel will reduce the travel time between Copenhagen and Hamburg from 5 hours to under 3, fundamentally reshaping the economic and logistical relationship between Scandinavia and continental Europe. It is being built from the bottom of the sea up, and it is exactly on schedule.
Number 6. ITER Fusion Reactor. In the south of France, in a facility that looks from the outside like a collection of unremarkable industrial buildings surrounded by Provençal countryside, something is being assembled that may represent the most consequential engineering project in human history. ITER, the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, is a fusion reactor being built by a consortium of 35 countries, including the United States, China, Russia, the European Union, India, Japan, and South Korea. Its purpose is to prove definitively and at full scale that nuclear fusion can produce more energy than it consumes. If it works, the implications cascade through every sector of human civilization simultaneously. Fusion fuel is derived from hydrogen isotopes found in seawater, a resource that is, for all practical purposes, inexhaustible.
Fusion produces no carbon emissions, no long-lived radioactive waste, and no risk of the kind of runaway chain reaction that makes fission reactors dangerous. A working fusion power plant produces enormous amounts of electricity from an effectively unlimited fuel source with minimal environmental impact. Every climate projection, every energy geopolitical calculation, every economic model built around fossil fuel scarcity becomes obsolete the moment fusion works at commercial scale. ITER itself will not generate electricity. It is a scientific proof of concept, a machine designed to produce 500 megawatts of fusion power from 50 megawatts of input, demonstrating the tenfold energy multiplication needed to make commercial fusion viable. Assembly of the reactor's central components is underway now, with first plasma targeted for the late 2020s. The tokamak at the heart of ITER, the magnetic containment vessel that holds plasma heated to 150 million degrees Celsius, 10 times hotter than the core of the Sun, is the most complex manufactured object in the history of the human species.
Number 5. HS2 high-speed rail. The United Kingdom committed to building a high-speed rail line connecting London to Birmingham and eventually to Manchester and Leeds. The project, called HS2 for High Speed 2, was supposed to cost £33 billion and transform British infrastructure for a generation. That number now feels like a historical artifact from a more optimistic era. Current cost estimates for HS2 have exceeded £100 billion. The northern legs of the project, the sections connecting Birmingham to Manchester and Leeds, were cancelled by the government in 2023 after costs became politically unsustainable. What remains is a truncated high-speed line running from London to Birmingham, costing 3 times its original budget to deliver roughly half its original scope. And construction is still actively underway, with tunneling operations beneath London proceeding on a scale that rivals the Crossrail project, itself one of the largest infrastructure undertakings in British history. The HS2 story is not just a construction story. It is a case study in what happens when mega-project governance fails in real time, in public, with billions of taxpayer pounds at stake. The engineering work being done underground right now is genuinely impressive, boring machines operating beneath some of the most geologically complex and historically sensitive urban terrain in Europe. But every meter of tunnel completed exists within a political and financial narrative of catastrophic cost overrun that has permanently damaged public confidence in large-scale infrastructure delivery in the UK. HS2 is simultaneously a feat of engineering and a masterclass in how not to manage a national infrastructure program. Both things are completely true at the same time.
Number 4. Three Gorges Dam Expansion. The Three Gorges Dam on China's Yangtze River is already the largest hydroelectric power station on Earth by total generating capacity. It produces more electricity annually than most medium-sized countries consume. Its reservoir stretches 600 kilometers upstream. Its construction required the displacement of over 1 million people and permanently altered the hydrology of one of Asia's most important river systems. It was, by essentially every metric, the most ambitious dam project in human history. And China is expanding it. The expansion program, involving the addition of new generating units and the upgrading of existing infrastructure, is pushing the dam's total generating capacity further into ranges that strain comprehension. The facility already produces enough electricity to power a city of tens of millions of people indefinitely. The expanded version will do more. In a country where electricity demand is growing faster than almost any grid expansion program can match, adding capacity to an already operational facility of this scale is both economically logical and politically symbolic. But the Three Gorges expansion also exists within a context that the Chinese government does not discuss openly. The dam's reservoir has documented effects on local seismic activity. The enormous weight of water it holds has been linked by geological studies to increased frequency of minor earthquakes in the surrounding region. The dam's sediment trapping has altered river ecosystems hundreds of kilometers downstream. These are not hypothetical concerns. They are measurable, documented consequences of operating the world's largest dam in one of Asia's most geologically and ecologically complex river systems. The expansion amplifies every one of these effects. The electricity is real. So are the consequences.
Number 3. NEOM, the line.
Saudi Arabia is building a city that is 170 kilometers long, 200 meters wide, and 500 meters tall. A perfect rectangular structure stretching across the desert and mountains of the Tabuk region, like a mirror blade laid against the landscape. It is called the Line. It is the centerpiece of NEOM, a $500 billion giga project that is simultaneously the most ambitious urban development in human history and the most controversial construction decision any government has made in the 21st century. The concept is radical to the point of being genuinely difficult to process. No roads, no cars, no surface streets of any kind. The entire city is contained within two parallel mirrored facades, one facing the desert, one facing the mountains, with all transportation handled by a high-speed underground rail system running the full 170-kilometer length. The architects claim residents will be able to reach any point within the city in 20 minutes. The interior of the line is designed as a continuous built environment containing neighborhoods, parks, schools, hospitals, and commercial zones, all stacked vertically and connected horizontally through the rail system. Construction is actively underway in the desert. Satellite imagery shows excavation and earthworks at multiple points along the planned corridor. The scale of the earth-moving operation visible from orbit is extraordinary. Mountains are being reshaped, valleys filled, and the land contoured to receive the foundation systems of a building that, if completed as designed, would be the largest single structure ever built by human hands. Whether it gets completed as designed is a question the entire world is watching, because right now, in the Saudi desert, they are actually trying.
Number 2. NEOM Oxagon. While the Line captures global attention with its mirror facades and radical urban philosophy, the most secretive and structurally disturbing component of the entire NEOM program is being built offshore in the Red Sea, where most cameras cannot reach. Is designed as a floating industrial city, a massive octagonal offshore platform anchored in the Red Sea that will serve as NEOM's manufacturing and logistics hub. The design calls for an integrated port facility, industrial production zones, residential areas, and research facilities, all built on a structure that partially floats on the ocean surface. The largest floating structure ever built in human history is currently an offshore oil platform measuring a few hundred meters across. Oxagon's design envisions something orders of magnitude larger, a self-contained industrial ecosystem on water in one of the world's most strategically sensitive maritime corridors. The engineering challenges of building any large structure that floats are severe. Building one large enough to house industrial manufacturing, deep water port operations, and a permanent human population in the Red Sea introduces every one of those challenges simultaneously, compounded by the region's seismic activity, extreme summer temperatures, and the corrosive chemistry of one of the saltiest bodies of water on Earth. Construction activity at the Oxagon site has been documented by satellite imaging, but the Saudi government releases almost no official information about its progress, timeline, or current engineering status. What is being built there and how fast it is advancing is one of the most closely guarded construction secrets on the planet right now. The Jeddah Tower is not finished yet. It has not broken the 1-kilometer record. The concrete is still being poured, the cranes are still running, and August 2028 is still a target on a schedule, not a date on a completion certificate. And yet, in Riyadh, a proposal is already advancing that would make the Jeddah Tower obsolete before its paint is dry. It is called the Rise Tower, proposed height 2,000 meters. Not 1,100, not 1,500, 2 full kilometers of inhabited vertical structure, a needle of steel and glass rising so far above the Arabian desert that its upper floors would sit inside the lower boundary of the troposphere, where commercial aircraft operate, where weather systems form, and where atmospheric pressure has dropped enough to require engineering solutions that simply do not exist yet. The estimated cost currently attached to the Rise Tower proposal is $5.3 billion. That figure is not credible to a single structural engineer who has reviewed it publicly. The Jeddah Tower, at half the height, in a simpler structural configuration, with decades of accumulated engineering knowledge behind it, has already consumed billions and required the invention of new concrete formulations, new elevator technology, and new wind modeling methodologies.
A 2,000-meter tower would not just require more of the same. It would require the invention of structural engineering as a new discipline, essentially from the beginning, for every floor above 1,000 meters. At 2,000 meters, wind forces operate in regimes that no permanent structure has ever measured. Concrete behavior under the thermal cycling at that altitude, where temperature differentials between day and night are far more extreme than at ground level, is entirely unvalidated. The elevator system required to move people 2,000 meters vertically doesn't exist in any form currently on the drawing board. And the foundation required to anchor a structure of that weight into any soil type on Earth would itself be one of the most complex engineering projects ever attempted. The Rise Tower may never be built.
But the fact that it is being seriously proposed, funded at a conceptual level, and discussed by actual structural engineers rather than science fiction writers tells you everything you need to know about where human ambition is pointing in 2026, straight up, without a ceiling in sight.
If you thought this was terrifying, you are not ready for what they found in the video on your screen. Click it right now. The truth is worse than you think.